Welcome back to another episode of the Scoop Around the Loop. It is just two here today, but it should still be a very entertaining and very informative episode. Tyler, how is your week going?
The week's going good so far. Been pretty busy with work, with personal stuff. We're about to go up to Hannah's cousin / best friend Laura's and her husband's farm in Akron, Iowa tomorrow morning to visit them for the weekend. So
just a boy from Akron?
Just a boy from Akron. You can throw a football and hit South Dakota. So it's way up there.
That's a little bit of a drive then.
Yeah, and we're just going to there's nothing to do up there except for sit at the farm and chill and do farm activities and get dirty and stuff like that. So we're about to go do that for the next couple of weeks. So just trying to get everything squared away before we leave.
Well, you're going to be up there for a while, though.
No, a couple of days. I don't know.
It's like a couple of weeks.
Coming back Monday. We'll be up there for a couple of days. But
one of the things I did have on the docket, because Iowa plays tonight, Iowa State has a bye week. It is the perfect weekend if you're a father of kids to go to apple orchards or pumpkin patches and more.
That is.
So I have a whole list of these because there's quite a few in the Des Moines-ish area. Some of these are a little bit of a drive away. I didn't realize how many there were. I'm just going to name them off really quick. You got Howells, you got Willis Family Orchard, the Iowa Orchard in Granger or Urbandale, Pumpkinville and the Corn Maze, which is in Mitchellville, Deal's Orchard, which is in Jefferson, Center Grove Orchard, which is in Cambridge, Wilson's Orchard and Farm, which is a newer place out in Cumming. Different activities from apple picking to pumpkin patches to hay rides to apparently Center Grove Orchard has a pumpkin fest on October 18th, 19th. You been to any of these?
Oh, yeah. You know me, man. Me and Hannah both like doing stuff like this. We usually
Is Howells the one you go to?
Center Grove.
Okay.
Howells is, I would say Center Grove and Howells are probably like the two most well-known ones and have the most activities, but Center Grove, it can get really, really busy, but they have a ton of stuff to do there for the kids, and it's entertaining enough for me to like going. There's also one, drop by it all the time because I go up to Ames for like football games. Go a lot of times, go up through Polk City and Slater.
Did I miss one?
There's one up that way. It's not big by any means. It's more so like it has like a corn bucket for kids to play in and then like pumpkins to pick. But I'm trying to think of what it is. But anyways, this is a good list. Yeah, there's a lot of this going on.
Am I crazy to think that these pumpkin patches should just send money to Instagram every year? Because I feel like that's the only reason these are popular.
Yeah, it's very Instagrammable. I definitely made a video about some orchard last year when we went.
Are you guys going this year, or is your farm trip?
No, yeah, I'm sure we'll find our way up there eventually. It's just, it's crazy that they make enough money. Now, granted, places I know like Center Grove and Howells, that's where we get our Christmas tree at every year. That's a tradition of ours. So they do stuff like that, and they have a greenhouse and all that stuff. But some of these other places, they make enough money to. And granted, it's probably not that big of a overhead if you've ever been there. Like the slides are, made of farm equipment and stuff like that. But they make a killing for these next 6 weeks or so.
And Wilson's Orchard and Farm too. That's a place that's open year round. It's just during the fall they do the apple picking, the corn maze, tractor rides, and stuff like that.
Yeah, they do. That's a wedding venue too, I think.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
We looked there when we were getting married. Wasn't quite my style.
What about Jasper Winery? Hypothetically, is Jasper Winery your style?
Yeah, that's much more my style, my friend.
Okay, that's 3 weeks away.
It's crazy. It's coming up. We should really. That's what we should talk about today.
Maybe when it comes up. Maybe next week we'll go through wedding planning. I'll pull up the seating chart and tell you where you're sitting, Tyler, and see if you're okay with who you're sitting next to.
Are you good? Have you guys started that at all?
Oh yeah, we got that all done.
If I know the people I'm sitting next to,
Yes.
I know who I'm sitting next to. I can't wait. We're about to talk about the most random stuff ever.
Okay.
I know exactly who it is.
I think
Besides my brother, I'm assuming I'm sitting by Andrew.
yes.
I guess.
All right. So Tyler, in your opinion, Des Moines is a seasonal market. Is it?
I don't know. I feel like the question is setting something up. Yes, I do think there's some seasonality to the Des Moines real estate market for sure.
I would agree with the comment you say. I also agree with your hesitancy in answering the question because honestly, this is information that I'm about to show that I don't think a lot of real estate agents like talking about because if we're totally honest with ourselves, we just want people to be buying and selling houses all the time.
Yeah.
And I'll kind of get into, well, I can just talk about it now. The struggle with looking at this stuff is that the optimal time to buy and the optimal time to sell are not at the same time. So unless you're in a situation where you have a second home or something like that, you're not going to be able to time up both of these.
Yeah.
And I will say by the stats that I looked at, this took me like 3 hours yesterday, by the way. By the stats that I looked at, I wouldn't even go through the hassle of trying to time this out because I don't think there is a huge advantage in listing in the optimal time. I also think it's kind of debatable when the optimal time to list is, and then buying in the optimal time. And also, I just did this for resale homes. I didn't do this for new construction. So if you're looking to buy new construction, there really is no optimal time to buy new construction. I maybe I would argue like May, June, just because it's easier for them to build at that time of the year. And they've gotten through winter, so plenty of their foundations are started, so they should be pretty heavy on inventory. But there's really not that much of a difference. There's no time of the year where you're going to get a great deal on new construction. But so what I did is I just looked at the last full 3 years that we had, so 22, 23, 24, and just averaged all of them together by month so people can get kind of an idea for these different stats when there are good months for these different stats. So this is a pretty basic one. I don't know if we'll be able to glean too much off of this, but it is kind of interesting. So the months that typically have the most new listings, you're looking at June. For the last 3 years has averaged 1,100 ish new listings a month for that month. The last 3 years, May kind of the same thing, and then April just a little bit below. And then most accepted offers. So this is when it went pending, when the seller signed the offer, that accepted, not when it closed. The most accepted offers were April, May, and June, all kind of right in the low nines or mid 900s. Does that kind of surprise you at all, or?
No, not necessarily. I think some of this kind of shows that the theory that buying in May, making real estate moves, I think in my experience is just so, in making real estate moves in June and April and May is just so engraved in people's minds that it's just how it's done. It seems like more than anything.
And I don't think it's necessarily people are doing that because it's like the optimal time. I think that's just the way a lot of people's lives work. Like when you have kids.
Yeah. Like I think it's just kind of been trained, like, once kids are out of school and, it's warm outside, you should list your house type of thing. And
right. There's also other that, well, actually, no, there's really no major holidays that fall in these months.
Yeah. And again, people typically have a little bit more time on their hands, whether you work a 9-to-5 office job. It just seems like for most people in the summertime, it's just not as busy at work. Whereas, a lot of jobs in like the finance sector, you have, or like any type of accounting job, you're super, super busy from the new year to April or so anyways, and like that type of thing. And teachers, um, kids with people with kids.
And then in case people are interested, like just to kind of get an idea of the variance, your lowest months for new listings, the low was like around 600.
Which was
So
in December.
yes, that was December. December, January, February are all kind of right around that 600. And then accepted offers. Accepted offers kind of sort of follow the same trend as new listings, kind of. Pretty close.
Yeah, I mean, I think you could kind of see that. Like, I think looking at those numbers, you could probably draw a conclusion that towards the end of June, stuff starts to slow down, and that's why there's not as many accepted offers in June. Probably.
Yeah.
That's my thought.
So median days on market. So how quickly are these homes selling in certain months? So this is of the homes that had accepted offers in that month, how many days did that home end up being on the market? So the accepted offers in December on average, those listings that have accepted offers in December were on market 27 days. November 19, January 16. And this is median days on market, but it's the average of those 3 years. So it's kind of confusing. But March, so just before that rush of new listings, March was the lowest at 4, April 4, May 5. So it's just like you were talking about with that condition of people wanting to make moves in that summer. I mean, because you figure if you have an accepted offer in March, that's probably closing April, maybe even May. And then April, it's probably closing in May, maybe June. May, it's June, maybe July. So people are all kind of trying to move in that late spring, summer. Like you said, people are just kind of conditioned to do that.
Yeah.
And then in the winter months, obviously, there's less people conditioned to make a move. So those homes might sit on the market a little longer. But if the way your life works out, you need to sell in November, December, or January. If you know before you're listing, hey, it might sit on the market 28 days. I still feel like that's a reasonable amount of time to be on market, right?
Yeah. Yep. Especially in the grand scheme of things.
Yeah.
And with everything going on in December, that seems to be when people are like the busiest outside of maybe August or something.
And then looking at it from the buyer standpoint of things, you can kind of sort of assume if hypothetically, if the home's been on the market for a longer amount of time, you probably got a better deal on it. That's not always the case. But if you're looking at it as a buyer, those months where the homes have been on the market longer probably would be the better months to buy. But like I said, it's not always the case. So
I think these kind of stats kind of show that, all right, in theory, you could time up the market to sell at the most optimal time and then to buy at the most optimal time. But in order to do that, you'd have to close and sign a 6-month lease, move twice or 3 times, which I can actually think of a couple people that wasn't like their intention necessarily, but that's just kind of how it worked out. They sold and we're just going to rent for now until we find something we really like, and then they found something. But so if you're willing to do that and put in all that extra work, which just the moving alone to me is worth $10,000, avoiding having to do that.
Well, and you can agree or disagree with me on this, but like homes are like every single family home is a completely unique thing. Even if you're looking at new construction, like there's the lot, there's the finishes that they might have put on it. There are like subtle differences. There's where it sits in the development as a whole. You can find quote unquote like a good deal any time of the year. So if you know what you want and you know you're eventually going to want to buy, I would talk to a real estate agent. And even if you're not thinking you want to move till September, if the right thing that's just a slam dunk deal comes up in July, like just be open to it, you
Yeah.
know, um, and kind of look at that.
Yeah.
So
And I think some people, going back to that highest days on market thing, like I think some people, again, it's kind of fantasize or over fantasize, I guess. Like I think people think, all right, it's been on the market for a month. That means I'm going to get $20,000 off the price. Like that's sometimes every once in a while that might happen, but like that's just not how it happens. Like a seller might give you $3,000 in closing costs and the home warranty. But like again, so timing up the market and figuring out and going through the trouble of that very, very rarely makes sense to, base your whole decision on when you're going to move on the best possible month according to the stats to move.
yeah.
That makes sense.
So that actually leads us in to the very next thing I have pulled up, just to give people an idea of what it kind of looks like. List to sales price to list price percentage. November, people on average were getting 97% of their list price. Well, all three of these months, right around 97%. And then the decimals were different. So in quote unquote, these like suboptimal times to list, they're still getting within 3% of their list price.
Yeah.
And then if you list at that peak time, you're in May, you're getting 100, and then April, June, you're getting right around 99. So your variance that you're talking about is really not that wide.
Right.
So, like, say you have a home that we think the market value on it is $300,000. So, if you listed in November, October, December, maybe if the market doesn't shake out right, you're selling it for 291. And then if you list it in May, April, June, you're getting 299 or 300.
Right.
So
Which again could be everything to some person, right? Like I don't want to. $9,000 could be a huge difference in people's lives, but there's also like, yeah, I don't know. It very, very rarely does it just again solely make sense. And I think you can also use these stats when you're approaching or talking to a seller. That kind of the idea of like, okay, if we think we could get 250, then we should ask 280, and then someone will offer 240 and we'll meet at 250 type of thing. Like that's just not how it works according to the stats. People will offer near list price and they won't offer until that ask price is near what they're willing to pay for it. And I think these stats definitely show it. Even in the slowest months, people are getting very, very close to your list price. So if you list it properly, people aren't going to lowball you. People are going to offer near what you're asking for it.
Yeah. And I would also throw out there too, like kind of the fun of the differences between like mean and average. These are the averages. Most people are getting basically exactly what they list at, or 99%.
Yeah.
There's just some crazy outliers in there that throw these averages off. Like people just listing way too high, or people listing low in the hopes of getting multiple bidders and it bidding up. And then on paper, like, whoa, that person got 130% of what they were listed at. But
Yeah, some of these
that was the game plan all along. So
some of these like bank-owned properties that make it to the MLS where they get listed for $100,000. I've seen and experienced it both ways. They get listed for $100,000 and the closest offer is 80, and they take it because that's the closest offer, like that's the highest offer they got type of thing. And I've also seen it where they come in and price it at 40,000. And really, if it wasn't a bank-owned property, it could have been priced at like 80,000. It wasn't that bad, that type of thing. And then a flipper who's looking to make a margin on it even comes in and offers well over asking price. So yeah, like you said, outliers are even the reason why the percentages are less or more than 100% in some cases.
And The other thing I would say too about like people potentially just because of the way their life works out need to list in one of these quote unquote like suboptimal months, like which is kind of pointing towards like your November, October, December, January kind of right now. It if your home is presented well and in good shape, you're gonna sell it no matter what month you're in.
Yes.
The homes that really struggle in these slower months are the ones that need a little bit of work and just like aren't presenting well, is
Yeah.
what I would say as well too.
Yep.
What do you got?
I had a thought and now it spaced me. Keep going.
This was I hope gonna be somewhat interesting to you. I kind of compared that listing stats to accepted offer stats and kind of tried to mark months that commonly were gaining a lot of inventory versus months where we're decreasing or not gaining as much inventory. Because this could kind of be seen as a positive, and I want to make a point after pointing out some of this stuff too. I also have a line graph to like visualize it a bit more too. But September, June, and October seem to be 3 months where we gain a lot of inventory. And to take a step back, the last 3 years we've steadily been gaining inventory in the Des Moines market as well. I mean, what did we look at there, Tyler? 2020, 2021, and kind of the beginning of 2022, we were decreasing quite a bit of inventory. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, I'd agree. And I shout out to DR Horton and those type of people. That's where I guess this is resale, huh?
It is resale, but I would
a lot
say
of new
DR
construction.
building that many homes helps resales inventory as well.
Yeah, and not just DR, just these other Greenland and Jerry's homes and these
just builders building a lot of houses.
Building a lot of houses. Like, I don't know, people, if DR doesn't come to town, stuff's way more expensive than what it is right now. But anyways.
So September, June, October seemed to be the big 3 months where we, on average, see the biggest gain in inventory. So if you were looking at this as a buyer and you specifically wanted to start shopping in times that we're gaining inventory in a lot of it, that would hypothetically be the good time to list. If you're looking at it as a seller, if you're listing in those months, you're listing with a lot of competition would be the thing to look at. The biggest decreases are actually January, December, and then February. On average, we only gain 23 listings on that month. So inventory, just because of what we talked about earlier, people don't like to list their home in the middle of winter. And there's still first-time home buyers out there looking for homes, so we decrease inventory on those months.
Yeah. And I think the people that are already in homes are typically a little bit more established, right? And maybe have families and stuff like that. So December, especially, like now that I only have one kid and I couldn't imagine listing my house in December. Like it would have to be a emergency type of situation for me to list my house in December. But on the flip side, before I had a kid, like I would buy a house in December. Like there's just not as much commitment or, stuff. So I can understand why those stats look like that in December.
So this is the line chart just to kind of try to visualize it a little bit, just lining out like if we're gaining or losing inventory and how much we're gaining that month. So like pretty much what you probably would have predicted if I told you to predict this before looking at it. Once we kind of hit that April, we're just gaining a lot of inventory through the summer into fall. And then once you kind of hit kind of what we're about to hit right now, once you hit October, the inventory gain starts to slow down or we even start decreasing in inventory. So I think the one big eye-opening thing for me looking through all of these is if a seller was to approach me and just say, hey, Thomas, I know I need to list my home. I don't care about buying. When's the optimal time to list? I think I would encourage people to list like in that March, like to beat the rush of people that are planning on, selling their home in the summer.
Yeah, I would also say probably it might depend on the house. Like if it's a big, big home, family home, maybe even a higher end home, definitely March to June, somewhere in there. But if someone comes to me desperately and they have like what I sold last week, that the Beaverdale brick we talked about, and it's ready to go, none of these stats say to me that like a house that is affordable, that's going to have first time home buyers after it, when it sells super quick and for close to
Yeah,
this.
because I mean, like you said just a few seconds ago, like I don't think first time homebuyers really care.
No, they
Like
don't.
if it's the right time,
All usually just comes down to leases, really,
yeah.
them versus like family stuff or life other than
But
leases.
I mean, I've even had first time homebuyers that said like, if we find the right thing, we're just going to pay to break our lease early. Like, so they don't really care. Like,
Yeah. It seems like people, once they shift into that homeowner's mind shift from renting, they cannot get out of their spot fast enough once it actually gets set into motion. I don't know. Like, I think all these stats just kind of go to show that there's like nuances to everything, and there's a pro and con to every single decision that you make in the world of real estate and buying and selling a house. And you can really get kind of lost in all that. And again, spend thousands of dollars in different ways to avoid having to list in December versus May, even though you're getting a 2% difference in price. You know what I mean?
right.
But
And the other interesting thing, my old broker, John Niemeyer, did a study on this once. One of the biggest market factors that we have that some other Midwest states don't have is the state fair. Have you ever looked at the state fair, like the weeks of the state fair, that market compared to like the 2 weeks before and after it?
yeah, I could definitely see there being a big impact.
Yeah, it is very interesting. I was just talking to a salesperson that was based out of North Carolina the other day, and he was shocked when I told him, I was like, yeah, kind of when the state fair hits, like it kind of slows down, and then we get into back to school, and that's when the market kind of really shifts. And then there's normally one big jump because September is normally a pretty solid month as well. It's never on the top of any of the biggest increase in listings, but yeah, I think
Yeah,
it's interesting.
it is interesting. It's a little big city
Yeah,
effect right there.
but the other thing to mention too, like clearly some of these stats don't make like December, January, February look favorable. But if you compare, like, take out those 3 months, the other 9, you're really not looking at that much of a difference.
And I mean, this stats matter more if you just need to do one of the two things. If
Right.
you need to sell and buy, then these stats, like, you just face the inverse on the other side. You know what I mean? Like, according to the stats, it's not the best time to list in December, but since you're going to be buying, you get to take advantage of that on the other side too. So again, just
It,
really coming down to when you have the money and when you can afford to move, and when you feel the nudge from the higher power you believe in, it's time to make the move.
well, and like a lot of investors will talk about this. Like, you make a majority of your money when you purchase the house.
Right.
Like, you build your equity by purchasing a house at a good price. So I feel
And
like a lot of sellers really, really focus on timing their listing when maybe they should be thinking about when can I get a good purchase?
yeah, and I could also argue like, okay, if you were to sell and buy, you could get in and see, in your new home, a $5,000, $10,000 increase in that spring summer market. So could also argue like the sooner you buy, just again, time spent in the market, the more up cycles you see, the sooner you buy.
Mm-hmm.
So whenever that time makes sense, whenever you guys have a couple months of the free months from vacations and big work obligations and weddings and stuff like that, to me, and granted, I do this every day for work, the ease of doing things versus like the money spent um, matter a heck of a whole lot more. So yeah,
I mean,
whenever it makes sense for your family outside of the money, I think is when you need to move. Assuming,
yeah,
of course, you can afford.
people pay money for convenience all the time.
Yeah,
Like, it's not unheard of to just like, well, I know it's not the perfect time, but it's the perfect time for us. So this is just when we're gonna do it. So it's definitely something to think about. Um, I wish I would have organized the photos I took a little bit better. But I
one thing to go back to this, I just thought of what I was thinking when I spaced out. I wish there was a way, and you can tell me your experience. In my experience lately, like the past 2 years, and I think maybe it's just kind of obviously we work with buyers and sellers from all ages, but obviously the majority of my buyers and sellers are around my age. I would say 25 to 35 years old. I would say, I don't know, 80 to 90% of them are far more concerned about other terms of the purchase agreement other than price. Like far more concerned, like in terms of closing cost credits or what's fixed during the inspection. So the sales price, these stats, they don't reflect that this buyer got an $8,000 credit in inspection or, different stuff like
or
that as
it
well.
doesn't, and it would be hard to keep stats of it, but it doesn't reflect like the they did an inspection and the seller fixed everything.
Yeah. Yeah. Or they got a home warranty or they left we negotiated recently in a deal, a $20,000 John Deere tractor. So again, like I think I say that to say like the stats on list price and money or the price of the price being the number one thing, especially when you're talking about like retail buyers, people buying homes for like their family to live in. There's so much more to the picture to get caught up in. When am I going to get the highest price for my house? I don't know.
Right.
So, but anyways, that was that thought I had earlier.
We want to talk about the home show really quick. We've got the home show is in like Grimes Granger this year. It's just west of Beaver Creek Golf Course, in a new development that they're doing out there. There's 7 homes out there. It is going on this weekend and then next weekend, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. So you still have plenty of time to go see it. Did you get a chance to look at any of the homes online or anything, Tyler?
Yeah, I've looked at them all. They're pretty freaking cool.
They're cool houses. I would point it out as someone that thinks a custom home is in your future at all. I would go look at these things, to see a bunch of different builders, to see different unique things that they're doing in it, because this is where you really get a chance to see what's trendy, what different kind of cool features that you put in the home and stuff like that, and just kind of get an idea. Personally, I was a little shocked to see how many of the exteriors were still very, very modern.
Yeah.
I think that more traditional look is definitely kind of starting to make a comeback. The more traditional floor plan, in my opinion, is starting to make a comeback as
I would
well.
love to see someone take a home show and do like a colonial type of
So,
house.
did you see pictures of the Allaire home?
What's that? Do you remember the address?
I don't, and I don't even know if it's listed on the MLS right now, but he
So
was calling that, they're kind of calling that like a modern revival is what they're calling that. They went through and looked at a lot of the South of Grand homes that they liked and tried to make a modern version of that.
Yeah. Well, our team has a listing coming out in Van Meter that was inspired by like a South Carolina, almost like a plantation looking home. So stuff like that, I think is coming back for sure. But yeah, I would agree. That seems like they can't quite get away from. And maybe it's like the risk involved. They know that a lot of buyers like that modern look, especially like high end buyers. So they just, at the end of the day, they got to sell.
Yeah. And a part of it is just like what buyers want, because like, I don't know if a lot of people know this, but the homes in the home show, a lot of them are custom ordered and basically designed by a buyer. It's
Right.
everything a buyer would want. Like I said, there's only 3 of them actually listed on the MLS right now, so I'm assuming that there's 3 of the 7 are actually just like spec homes for sale. So it's just kind of what buyers want. But yeah, the Alaire one really stood out. If you go out there, the design to build one was pretty impressive too. They built like a modern, it's actually a 3-story home, and the top level is a gym that walks out onto a balcony. It's really sick. it's really really cool. I am blanking on the name of the builder right now, but another one. The exterior walls were all concrete walls.
Hmm.
So it's basically if another derecho comes through, that
Good.
house is not going down. So, and a tornado. Tornado would be more common, but if it gets hit by a tornado, it's going to be totally fine. So it's very very cool.
Yeah, those houses are very, very, very impressive. I think one thing to keep in mind if you are going out there, kind of for inspo for a custom home, is like our good friend Todd Drake at Drake Homes likes to tell people, cool cost. So if you see something where you're like, that's cool, I promise you it costs more money than, something a little bit more normal or whatever it is. So whether it's a water faucet on your kitchen sink that looks really, really cool, that thing is probably a couple, $400 or something. So just, yeah, keep that in mind too.
I did have one more segment planned, but I have a closing that I need to get to at 12.
That's the
So
that's the most important thing in the game right there, getting people to closing, Thomas. Job well done.
so I'm gonna get headed to closing. But yeah, like you said, I mean, I think the least expensive home in the home show this year is 1.7 million.
Yeah.
So when you're walking through them, remind yourselves of that too.
Yeah. Yeah. And again, like it's not, I think a lot of people probably go in there thinking like, all right, I don't need 4,000 square feet, but if I just built this home like 3,000 square feet, then it would be
We'll get it
800.
under 6.
Yeah. No, it's not like all the floor plans. It costs to have a cool floor plan, even. It costs to put up walls and half walls and windows and all that stuff. But yeah, very, very cool home. Super cool thing that home builders put on here in Des Moines. The next one's in Norwalk. Thomas will be excited about that. So
What development is it in Norwalk? Is it out in the Agri-Hood again?
I'm not sure. I know that a builder that we work with was asked to be in it. That's how I know. I just know it's in Norwalk.
Okay, cool. Well, thank you, Tyler, and thank you to everyone watching. Hope everyone has a good week.
Peace.